Here talking about being a photojournalist, a news journalist, a cameraman. There's a lot of different terms for what it is, and really working in television, it's more than just being an anchor. You know, like I said, there's a lot of different names. It all kind of boils down to the same job. Using your camera to be able to tell a story through news media. Not just the video, but the audio components as well. Specifically, I'm focusing on working at a local news station, like your local CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox affiliate. There's 210 DMAs in the country that's designated market areas. That works out to be how the area you're covering. Average day as a news photographer varies a lot, but you'll start anywhere from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. depends on what you've got on your docket. 8 a.m. is probably about a safe start to when your day will work out to be. You walk in the door, first thing you do, grab your gear because news breaks at any given moment. It is not a 9 to 5 job. Grab your gear, load it into the car. I'll break down what's all in the gear here in just a little bit. From there, check in with your assignment editor. That is your air traffic control of the newsroom. She or he will be able to tell you what's going on, what's the outlook for the day, where are you getting sent, do you have to cover something 2 blocks away, 2 hours away. From there, you gathering yourself, putting together and going on your shoots. When you're setting up to go on your shoots, you want to figure out what is the story, there's so many things to be covered over the course of a day. It's not likely you're going to know every detail, but there are notes. There are people who have covered stories or other functions within this fashion. You can operate in there and go, hey, help me out. What details do I need to know to cover this to the best I possibly can? After you're done with the shoot, there's a potential for editing. We'll touch on to that here in just a bit as well. Your gear, first and foremost, hey, you can't be a cameraman without a camera. Duh. I use a Sony 320 KLZ shoulder-mounted camera. It also works onto a tripod. Bringing with also a recordable media. Back in the day when I started, you were using just a cassette, a DVC Pro, for lack of a better term, a cassette tape. Now, digital media, just a little card, much like you have in your cameras at home. Along with also carrying an equipment bag, audio cables, microphones, stands, and hey, still using the old analog notepad and pen, but can be helpful at any given moment. Types of news stories you might cover in a day, there's pretty much 4, and it's a little bit of variation in there. First and foremost, the voiceover, the VO as it's called. That's where the information or the video runs. Your anchor or reporter will talk over, but it's not timed exactly. It still fits with the story. Usually synced in with that is a sound on tape, a SOT. That's where you're letting the interview speak to the audience and bring about what's the details of the story. The anchor won't talk over that. A live shot. That's what's happening live. That's, hey, we're going to send it out to the game. We're going to send it out to City Hall. Everything that you're seeing is happening right in the moment. Kind of an offshoot of that is the idea of the look live. The point of shooting a look live is to make it look like it's live. It's not really live. You're shooting it in the same sort of function. Very quick. You're going to have people that are going to stumble and fumble as they work through it. The last is a package. Usually these are done by anchors or reporters, although photographers do sometimes put those together. This is pre-produced so you can time it. So when you finish with one sentence, noise will pop up so you can intermix the natural sound and the voiceover to weave together a story that's just perfectly crafted. An offshoot of that is the natural sound package, or a nat pack. That is just the interviews and the natural sound. No anchor ever speaks during a nat pack. And I've actually gotten quite used to putting those together. They're interesting and kind of fun. So going on a shoot, like I talked earlier, communication is key. You have to be able to interact with your coworkers, figure out what's going on for the situation. If you have the time, sit down and research. Go to the websites, go to the websites, go to books, go to newspapers, go to whatever resources you can get your hands on and figure out what details are out there and available to make sure that you have as much knowledge walking into your situation as possible. That's going to help you in your interview. That's going to help you in gathering your video. From there, hey, if you're ready, get on the road. Part of doing your job is being on time. If you're late, you're going to miss your story. Once you get there, there are some times where you can just get straight to work. Sometimes you have to turn around and you've got to establish that you're there. You check in at the front desk, as it were. From there, you can establish who you're interviewing. Sometimes it's set up in advance. Sometimes you have to find it out, figure out who you will be talking with. After that, gather your B-roll and your interview shots. Those can sequence out whenever you're through there. Now, B-roll, that's an industry term for just essentially your just general shots for your story. And then one last thing to touch on here about going on to a shoot, turning around and doing a live shot. There's two different ways you can do a live shot. There's either your big live truck or it's a digital uplink unit. Start with the live truck. It's big, it's expensive, it's bulky, and it takes about an hour to put it all together. You park it, you put up the dish, you have to angle it and rotate the dish and relay the signal so it can relay back to the station so it can then get sent out on air. Have to go through several checks of setting up equipment, making sure the signal quality is correct, and everything is feeding through correctly. The other version, the digital uplink unit, pretty much a basic computer about this big. Plug a couple things into the computer, into the box, hit a couple of buttons, about 3 minutes you've done what used to take an hour. It's a great feature. So you're done with your story, you've got all your shots, back to the newsroom. You get back, pass along any relevant information. Sometimes you're with a reporter, they've got their notes, they can go off on their way, and you don't have to do anything. A lot of times you walk back, if you've done a story just as a photographer, hand it off to the producer or whoever is editing it and go, hey, here are the details, here's something I noticed, here's something that I heard, here's something that was mentioned before the interview started rolling or afterwards, little details to help craft the story and refine what's being put together. There are some instances where photographers will do their own editing. Like I mentioned, doing the natural sound packages and sometimes putting together highlights for sports or what have you. Again, it comes to knowing how to paste together what you're putting putting together for your stories. As far as training, obviously working in a mass communication, that's a big part of being in mass comm. But it's more than just that, and that's kind of why I went into the individualized studies. You want to know about philosophy and history and politics. If you know those subjects, you can be far more interactive with your interview subjects, really connect with them, and have a base and understanding of who they are and what they are. News is not a 9-to-5 job. News can break at any moment. I've gotten phone calls at 11 o'clock at night and said, there is a fire. We need you to get out there right now. That's part of the job. You're in the field, you're in rough conditions. I've had to hike up ski hills to do my job. And that's just part of it, because sometimes you need to get into the environment. There's an old saying, take me there, make me care. And then weathering the storm. That's one of the things about about the job. You're going to face adverse conditions. You're going to face snow and sleet and rain and all the other fun parts of the environment. Employment prospects, like I said, there's 210 markets in the country, about 700 local stations. There's not a lot of turnover, and honestly, the growth is kind of slow. It's a hard market to crack if you don't know who to talk to and how to get in there. Wages do vary. Starts probably about $10.50 here in market 129. Goes up much higher when you get into a bigger market. Am I still interested in being a photographer? Well, yes, clearly I am. That's what I do for a living, so I know I come at this from a much different angle. It's a tough job, it's a difficult job, it's a tiring job. There are some days where I do think about a 9-to-5 job. but I love the thrill. I love that rush of chasing after that big story. Thank you so much.